That's crazy. It should work now. It should. It should. In theory. I studied this. I studied this at school, actually. I'm kidding. No, obviously not. Who do you think I am? Let's go. I think it's probably good. Although I know what I'm doing. Where do I put down my shit though? Let me think about it. Oh, that's cool. Okay, that's silly. My bad. What did I do? What is plugin? Distance coordinate. Interesting. What is that's a minute off? How do I make this? Diamond, then this glowstone, Yo, shut up. Let's go to the mines. Is there any opening nearby? There is. I see you. Pointing. Let's get down to business immediately then. This is such a small one. But yeah. You kid. You're kidding me. You're kidding me, dude. Like, what? Stop it. No, that's it? That is it. Are you sure that's it though? I have both. It's crazy. I'm gonna fall. It's kinda crazy wall. What is that? Bamboo? Really? Bamboo? That's mine. That's great actually. Wait, where's my spawn though? Do I need to die for this? No. Where's my spawn? I think this one. That's not it. I think this one, right? My spawn. Uh, I guess I'll just die. Are you kidding me? Oh, I thought it was growing on the leaf. I mean, AP. It's nice. Let's save this. One. Wow. Hello. Hey yo. I think it's better if we die, right? I think that would reset better. Yo. Paul. Give me a on that. Fucking bit, it's my OBS is correct for some reason. That's nasty. Stone. Okay. Let's get some torch. Okay, this is pretty cool. Actually, let's press down. Let's get here. I think that would be nice. What is that? I thought it was a skeleton. Now I'm lagging. Wait, fuck. Are you kidding me, dude? Fuck you. Let's press. You kidding me, dude? Oh my god. Unlucky, dude. Like, what do you mean? Hold on a minute. Hey, Chan. Really a rare zombie, dude? When I have nothing? It's crazy. This is why I have kept infinite on better one. Not because I'm an idiot or anything. Hold on. Why does it feel weird? Oh, what is it called though? What is it called? That's there. No, I can cross. Where is this? Looking at holding still. Is it because I'm holding still? Is that why? Oh, that's why. I see, I see. That is at the right. That's right. What the fuck? Wait, did I just say netherite? I mean emerald. It's like emerald, that is. Anyway, yeah. Oh, so many iron now. I'm getting that piece of shit. Wait, what is my class again? Can I see that actually? What is it called? Root, like, about the root. About the there a way to see? Open setting, what map? No, that is not that, not that. Not that either. What is available? Okay. This is where I die. Fuck you. Where are you? My head. That's it. As a commemoration that I die here. Anyway, let's get iron pickaxe. What is this? Iron sight. Give me iron pickaxe. Right? And I'm playing katana. Good. Scimitar? What is scimitar from? I can type as well. What? Why does it not exist? J-E. What the fuck? What the fuck? What the actual fuck, dude? Up here? What the fuck is this shit? Anyway, katana. I'm kidding you. Please, I'm not off loot. What? What? But this is so weird. Some weird secret the shit. Anyway. That. Wait, what is this? Is this generation, dude? Is it not a structure? I don't think so. Wait. Don't think it's structure. And it's already 9. Like what? You kid. Let's make a bucket. Where is it? What is this gathering problem? Anyway. This is weird. The generation here is weird. How much iron though? I think I'm getting full iron with this. This is okay. Let's go level 1. I didn't see that. But what else to do? Now what to do? This is fun. And I don't need this. Because you know why. What the hell? That is better than what? How come? How come, dude? You get me. Anyway. How come, dude? Let me try something. No, it doesn't exist. So anyway, what am I doing? Let's just gather iron. Okay. That is scary. Let's just gather some fucking material, dude. Let's go. Right. What is this? What actually is it? Not a structure. I don't think it is. I think it's just a Reddit or the what is it called? I don't know, the other mod. Did I just double jump dude? Yeah, I did. It's fun. Double jump is fun. Fuck you. You think, oh my god. Oh my god. I hate that shit so much. But it was started. And not press play. Can I disable that? Like, what do you mean? My god, dude. I got ambushed by that shit. Piece of shit, I swear. Ridiculous, I mean. Oh. It's cool. Double jump is so much fun, yo. This shit. Wait, where did I die? Down here, somewhere? I swear I can find it. Wait, I don't. Where did I die, dude? Oh, I'm so far away. Where did I think I was near? Okay, here it is. I mean, it is fun now, so that's all head. Yeah, it is fun. It is cool. I won't get the mark. What of sure? No. What? Unless I don't know the difference. This one that I don't know the difference. Anyway, that's it. But I have more iron. Let's see. It's almost. Let's get a resource. Mine. Get it? No. Actually, rather than this joke. I don't even plan that. Just came out of my mouth. Like natural, right? How it is. Full armor. It would not give me a fighting chance, but whatever. That's not what I want. Level 1 again? It's so fucked. This mod is so fucked, dude. Let me disable that shit. Oh, this one. Okay. Let's just up that to do. That's weird, that's weird. 1.5 maybe? What about 1.2? Yeah, that's good, that's good. Just a normal skeleton. Fuck. Fuck, I'm stupid. I can fight for real. Anyway, I need food. I should not be giving that. I need food. I need food, dude. I need food. Fuck you. Uncommon, dude. It's it. Oh, I almost dodge. I must have dodged. That I'm stupid, that's why. I didn't. There's literally a cave over here. I'm stupid. It's very stupid, dude. Right. There is an outpost here. Cool. What is this? Let's just set spawn here, or maybe. This is spawn. This out spawn is deleted though. This is spawn, okay. Pumpkin. Give me food. Yes, that's what I need. Okay, do I need to bake it? I know how to bake it. Don't worry, there's one back, okay? It's cool. It's cool that they spawn back, dude. Anyway, this is my base now. That's cool, I can see. But this is not cool actually. Fuck, I'm burned. I think after this, I think I'm moving the campfire down and replace it with waypoint, which is cool. I mean, it gives me regen. That's one of the mod I installed. Anyway, that's all my food now. And more food here, this way. Okay. Did I also kill the baby? That's unfortunate. Okay. Okay, more food, that's nice. I should get up. Oh. It is nice. It is actually nice. Let me get it though. I don't need. Maybe I should install Looter. Maybe it gives me an indicator, right? Let's say it's not too late to turn back, but maybe next game. This is my temporary camp for now. Let's set up my base here. Let's see, what do I don't need? This one. No, I need that. I don't need charcoal. Stick. I don't need that. Don't need this. I don't need that. I don't need. So that's fine. That's doable for now. Okay, that's good. Let's clear the area. I mean, why am I using? That's my furnace. That's good. Hey. Wait, I can farm vitality here. It gives me regen. Oh, I never die. That's crazy, like, but that's such a gist. I don't want to do that. Where's my stick? Let's turn this to stick. Why am I keeping plastic? Paper down. Interesting. Okay. Let's go somewhere nice. And nice, I mean bad. I'm looting it. What is this? Yes, mine. All mine. Great job. I should not look at minimap, dude. I'm exploding. I only look at minimap. You know what? Maybe I should. I only look at minimap when I need to. So when I need to see mobs, okay? Because sometimes this is so hard to find cow, dude. That's what I mean. Anyway. There it is. By the way, I don't see many maps for that. I just happen to find one. And why I need so much leather though. So I'm killing everything that drops that. It's good. I should not go to the I mean, I have enough food. I mean, I don't really have enough food for, you know. Wait, that's crazy. I can make it. I can make it though. I'm stupid. Where is it? You eat it. No, you eat it. Don't work. What is that? Interesting. A food for me. Am I full already? Don't. I see cow here. Where is it? Am I blind? Where is the cow? I don't see one. Where is it? The shit? I swear I see one. I mean, I can see there's cow down here. There it is. I mean, okay, I'm such a bad shooter. Did I not get the... Okay, here it is. What am I supposed to do? There it is. Okay, that's fine. How did I not one hit that? Okay. What is that, dude? There's a legendary there. Come on, come on. What the fuck? How come? I did not loaded it. How come? Okay, there it goes. Die. It. Let's see. Let's see. Fuck. Okay. Almost I died here. But let's go mine. Do I have enough? No, I don't have enough inventory for this. What am I thinking? I should have make outposts first. Let's see. Dude, come on. And I think I need to sleep tonight. Fuck, idiot. Anyway, that's what I wanted anyway. Totally not on accident. The flower is wonderful. Why am I such an idiot? Why make a better? Oh, did I? Sweet dreams. I'm a frostborn. Hmm. I don't. I think I need that. I think this is fine. No, it's not fine. What do you mean fine? I have so much food, but not enough inventory for it. Which is crazy. Let's see. I think I just make a tunnel here. Fuck. That's idiotic. I should always. Fuck. Alright, that scared me. Oh. Not what I wanted. Not that either. Can't seem to reach that fast. Okay. Anyway. Idiot. I'm dead, I'm dead. I'm dead, I'm dead, I'm dead. I'm so dead. I'm dead, I'm so dead. Oh. Okay. Wait, why is that? Oh my god. Oh, scary ass. Oh my god. Oh my god. Jesus Christ. Oh, I'm scared. Scared. It's just so straight up. The waterfall, so I think I'm installing something here. So right. That's right. Fucking bitch. I ran out of fucking cobblestone. Crazy. Anyway, let me get this iron and get out of here. And get some cobble. Wait, that's nice. Already breaking it? The fuck? Why so weak? Okay. Right. Good. I'm so stuck. Now we go to the underworld. Let's go. We're done to the mine. Let's go. It's scary. Anyway. I ran out of torch. Wait a minute. How will I ever make it there? I think. Right, iron. Why can't I change layer? Why I have enough wood? Okay, I have enough wood. That's it? That's it? No, that's not it. Here. This. Okay. Good. That's messed up. What is that? Okay. I need copper. Try again. That is cringe. One shot at me, dude. I mean, yeah. Where are you? Oh my god. Dude, the fuck? Literally the fuck, dude. I swear, he's camping me, dude. Shit. That's crazy. Where is it? Is it this one? No. Oh my god. That's full time now. Crazy. Okay, I cheesed that. My bad, I cheesed that. No loot either? Crazy bitch. I hate him so much. No loot, the fuck. So angry. Idiot. This is Blackstone, by the way. I just realized. That's crazy. Yeah. It's painful, dude. The fuck? Why did... Okay. Red. Oh my god, red again? Okay, I thought he died. Nice. No, I'm not using that shit. You grass, dude. Nicely done, dude. Just some puzzle. Okay, that's all that is uninteresting. But maybe not. Maybe yes. Anyway, give me iron. Give me copper, man. Give me copper. Crazy. Coal. I love coal. How did I not die to that skeleton, dude? What happened? They have arrow, right? They have bow, I mean. Right? See, it's worth it. Honestly, I think I'm testing Divine Enchantment, dude. Is it normal to have it reset? Cause what the fuck? Do you know how fucking far level 8 is? It's crazy. And what is this vein, dude? Why is it so huge? Crazy. My FPS literally went to 0 there, which is crazy. I should stop saying crazy, because it is crazy. Crazy to me. It's 9 outside, so. Anyway, cobble. Okay, no, that's not it. Legendary whatever, dude. Okay. That's it. So, let's get out of here. This is inconvenient, dude. Oh yeah. Let's go to the Like, oh, I don't need any stick. Don't need this. I don't need this. I don't need this. Apocalypse red. No, I don't need that. And though it has mega soundness, but I don't care. Let's get that iron melter. Why is it still here? Who the fuck did not chop this? Oh my god. Who? What kind of an idiot left that there, the shit? One, two, three. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Annoying. Okay, let's go. I don't know this. Where am I? Nowhere. What is this fuck the shit? What is this? Is this bug or is this intentional? How did I not make that jump? Let's go to the mines. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. That's water. That's water. Yeah, that's water. Let's Oof. Let's go. Let's go, Amethyst. I love Amethyst. Amethyst. Let's go. Amethyst. Is that how you spell it? That is how you spell it. I'm genius. Okay. And it's doing. Oh my god. Okay, I have no. Okay. What is that? Happens. Fuck. Okay, that's good. Fuck. Cool. And it's sing, and it's sing, and it's sing. I should light it up. Fuck. Died. They're dead. I'm dead too. Ah! What? I'm so bad though. What do you mean? What do you mean I'm so bad? It's this again, the shit. What is going on? I don't like this. I don't like this page. But so scary. Okay. Okay. That's just silly of me. How much would I have? Not that much. Copper, whatever. And with diamond. Where is the water? Okay. Okay. Oh my god, I'm stupid. God, that's annoying. Oh my god. God. Oh my god. Fuck. Fuck, that was so fast. Did you see that mob dude? The fuck? What am I supposed to do? They one-shotted me though. Yeah. They actually one-shotted me. Come on. Just faster. Ah. So it doesn't matter if I cancel. I'm just dead either way. I mean, canceling my fall damage would be silly. But anyway. Idiot. Look at that. Look how fast that is shooting. Fuck. Fuck you, mate. What the fuck? I'm seeing shit. I'm seeing shit, dude. Oh my god. Oh, that's scary. As well, if that thing can show up as an edit mob, dude, I'm dead, dude. I'm dead still. Oh my god, what is that? Show me, undead knight. At least it's not a knight, you know what I mean? At least it's not something from... Shit, let me move. Die, 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 die. Nothing, dude. Nothing, really. You kid, dude. You kid. That. I'll zombie again. So fast, dude. So fast. Come on now. How is that not cheating? Look at how slow this is, dude. Like, what? Oh my god, oh my god. What is that? What is that, dude? What is that? What is literally that, dude? And why am I stupid? I'm literally stupid, dude. I'm literally stupid. Yeah. Stupid bitch. Don't need that. Come on, when it's night. Yeah, dude. It's crazy. What is this? What is this? What is this particle? I hate it. Like, are you shitting me? Sorry. Like, are you shitting me, dude? Like, literally, what am I supposed to do there? I got one shot at. Crazy, dude. I mean, I can just teach them if you know what I mean, but what's the point in that? Wait, did I not sleep? Idiot, dude. That idiot. Did I not sleep? Did I escape? Did I press escape, dude? Shit, what is that shit? Die. Fucking bitch. Come on, leave me alone. Okay, I'm done here. Okay. Stop pressing down. Okay. Where was it? Dying is not fun, dude. I need diamond fast. Die. Good bitch. Efficiency, dude? Come on. Can do better than that. Why is he not shooting? Is he stupid? Okay, he's stupid, dude. Thank God. Die. Oh my God. Oh, sorry. That is better than mine. But I need to light this up faster. I don't wanna die again. This will be my base, I think. My secondary base. Not with this annoying squid though. What is that? Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you mean. Fuck you mean. Run. Stupid bitch. Frames up. Fuck you. Fuck you. Come on, let me jump. Oh yeah. Let me heal, bitch. That. Okay. Oh my God. I'm scared. And my katana is breaking. Great. Let me craft katana. That's my comet attitude. That seems like a great place to die. That's my katana. This is great. I'm running out. Fast. Yeah. Come. Okay, that's fine. No, that is not fine. Okay, it worked. Okay, it's fine now. It's fine, guys. It's fine. Fine, it's fine. This is my base now. Fuck you. Shit. Fuck. Oh my god. Ridiculous. Yeah. I got overwhelmed there. It's not good. Figure. But this is just ridiculous at this point. I mean, it's fun. It's really fun. I say. I need feather falling, dude. Like. Oh. Where was I? Come on. Come on, mate. I ran out already? Bitch. 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 Oh my god. I'm surrounded, dude. Okay, I'm chasing. But this is ridiculous. Wait, what do you mean? What do you mean you can swim, dude? This shit? You can't swim? Chill. Fuck. Let's go through this first. And then I can shoot shit. Where's my father? I'm dead. What? Oh my god. Ridiculous. Ridiculous, dude. I installed a new mod, so I need that. I need that loaded. I need that loaded, dude. I need that loaded right now. Are you kidding me? I need that loaded right fucking now. What do you mean, bro? I need that shit loaded. Just me dying all over again, dying over and over again. I mean, like, are you kidding? What do you mean? What do you mean? This is ridiculous. But this is a lot of thing, okay. Wait, what is it? Emote? Where is it? Oh. Done, but so. Where is it? Like over left? F9, okay. That's good. I think I like carpet more. Overlay. Pretty much, yeah. Wait, what is this? I see. It's a bit laggy. It kills my SPS so bad. I think I'm dead so bad. Maybe A? Tongue? That makes sense why it fucking killed my game. Anyway. But is that better? I thought it was number marker cross. Carpet. Sure. What the fuck am I seeing right now? Not my business. Unless it kills me right now, which what the fuck? I see. I see now, I see. I see. Where's my torch? Motherfucker, where's my torch? Where's my torch? Shit. Fuck. Where's my torch though? You guys seeing it? Am I seeing things, guys? Or have I not been torched? Have I been torchless all this time? Shit. Wow. Legendary creeper dot. You see this? Ridiculous. Not like I'm encountering it or anything, but legendary creeper dot. The fuck? What do you mean legendary creeper? Actually, now that I think about it, what do you mean legendary creeper dot? I didn't even know what it made of the shit. Why is this bright? Oh, this is sound assembling. Probably that's the latter. Probably the latter. Okay. And I still have full inventory. Look at my armor, dude. But obliterated, dude. Are you shitting me? Wait. Shitty bitch. You get, oh no. No. You get. Okay, I'm chasing. Fuck this shit, dude. Wow. What is this? Sensor? This better than mine? Efficiency 5 unbreaking. Yeah, it's not better. And it's string though. What is this? Smart stick? No. Ice alloy? No. Deeper alloy? What does that even mean? Fucking bitch. What the fuck? I don't know. Okay, I'm dead. But I'm chasing this. I'm scared. Oh my god. Time's up. I'm so chasing good. Come on now. Look it. Mjolnir. I don't Mjolnir. Goodbye. Medkit, Whiteling. UDRs. I don't need that. Anyway. This is really cold. Nice. Okay. Nice, I see. Really now. God suck, dude, the shit. Level 2, you liar. You absolute liar, dude. Not level 2. The fuck are you talking about? Is there maybe incompatibility with some of my mods? Dream. Okay. Who goes there? Who the absolute fuck dare to challenge me? Sorry, I don't mean that. I don't mean that, dude. Let me heal. Let me heal, bitch. Okay. Shit. Okay, what is it? Primitive chainsaw? Whatever. Okay, let's go. the sword. I'm almost get the sword myself. I need that. Oof. This is so much better for lighting up cave the ship. Just ignore that creeper. I don't need any distraction right now. This is my base now. I'm claiming it. Okay? Okay? You hear me, you fucking monster? There, one hitting me? Come on. Come on. Fine, fine. Bit more, bit more. Ridiculous. That's what I think it is. Die. I'm so hungry though. This shit. I'm so gluttonous. Or whatever the ravenous, that's the word. I'm so ravenous actually. Which is crazy. Oh. Fuck. Fuck, almost dead. Fuck. Fuck. Yikes. I died for damage, sorry. How many times I've died actually? It's not looking good, dude. Where is it? Dead. Dead? No. Die. What is it called? Is this it? No. No. That's silly, that's silly. What the fuck? Where are they spawning? What the fuck is happening? What are they doing? Multiplier, popular, medkit, primitive mining deal. Don't need that. Anyway, I always forgot to do this, and I also need to do something else with my. Okay, that's clean. Why plus that? Yeah. Me mark, right? Where do I put this? Where do I put this actually? I'm confused. Probably over here. Yep. Give me that. Now where do I put my chest? Do I not have chests? Let's just make them from this. See? Oh yeah. What am I needing again? I think I need armor, right? My armor is fucked. Oh yeah. Annoying. What mod I did this dude? Come on now. Give me normal armor, dude. This shit. Anyway. What am I to do? I think I need to farm more. I have no food, dude. I have no food. Actually foodless. I still have potato, right? Let's farm, dude. Where though? Probably down here, right? Whatever, dude. Probably this area probably good. I need fucking shovel. What is a rapier, dude? This shit. Let me try that actually. Or Minecraft. This is. I mean, it's faster. And this is not a rapier, dude. I mean, I don't know my sword. But I don't think that's how it works. Maybe it is. Which, I don't know. What is it? And club. Anyway, crazy. Is it just data pack, dude? Because it is a data pack that it runs, so there must be a better way than a better light source than is, dude. Like, what do you mean? So ugly. Okay. I forgot I need to craft shovel. First of all. Let's clear the area. I need supply, dude. I can't survive the mine without supplies. Come on. Stupid. Come on now. Where's your love, dude? The shit. And why is my tool breaking so fast? Unbelievable. I mean, it's iron, but did it not last faster? Come on. Silly me. So should it not last longer? Just like, why break so fast? And hello you. But you wanna die? I don't have emerald. Fuck, I hit a B. I'm so fucked up. I swear I had this. Hey, that's nice. I think I'm installing another mod that you know what it is. Yep, I added another mod, but not necessarily urgent to say the least. So yeah. Nicely done. Idiot. Now we just need to plant. Five slot for hot battle, that's crazy. Right. Okay, I see how it is there. I see how it is. Jeez. Look at my heart bar, health bar. What is it called? Whatever. But look at it. Look at it. Anyway, nice letter. Now, what am I doing? I need water. Is there water here? Water, I love it. Oh, come on. Thank you, water well. See you. Oh, where do I put this? Here, maybe? Let's dig this down. Let's make it a pool. Every base needs a pool. Isn't that right, baby? Aye, Captain. That's what I mean. I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. I think that's it. Okay, fine. I am your idol. Copy that. I swear. Sorry, what is this? Is it 3? 3, huh? 3, huh? I need it here, and there. Oh yeah, better one. I installed that mod that make you wanna die. It is pretty nice. Fine, it's fine. back so easily. Oh yeah, this is pretty nice. Let's just fix this. Maybe. What is this? Okay, I'm what? It's a leaf litter. How did I not notice? Okay, this is growing pretty nicely. Now let's just terraform a bit around this area. And spawn probe it a bit more. Because I'm scared, okay? I'm scared some legendary monster will spawn and kill my ass, okay? That is scary. Wait, I can just take this. And I can just make them. I'm an idiot. Idiot. London is so much nicer, dude. Wait, where did I take them all? Kinda useless. Useless piece of shit. I want something nice, something called iron nugget. And then with that I want where is it? This. I mean, this is pretty nice. But this is not nice, so I don't know how I should put them up right now, but anyway, this should be a campfire. Pretty nice. This should be there. That's water there, right? Pretty nice, not gonna lie. Example. Now I need to terraform. I think I need to push this area a bit more. A bit. A bit big tree, dude. The shit is such a tree zone. That's a border zone. That's why if I miss some, I'm gonna kill myself. Okay, I'm kidding. Level 3 my ass. I did this. It's day 8 already, dude. 8. And I haven't progressed much. What could that possibly mean, dude? Shit. What level 3? I might run all the Grammys. One or the other, really. Let's sleep. I want to fix this, but that's an full area. Yeah, it is pretty good. Yeah, basically. Like this, maybe? Maybe too flat over here. This. Like this, maybe? Oh, this is too weak. I need to fill this out. Fuck. You know what? I just close this off, maybe. Yeah, I think I'm closing this bit off. And then probably do something with this. And probably do this. Bunch of this. I need to mine entire mountain, I think. Cause I don't know. Let's flatten this shit out. Pretty nice, honestly. Pretty calming. Give me that. I think I should do step now. Oh, step is stupid. This is step. This is so step. This is step now. Like, it only makes sense. Like that. What the fuck? What the fuck? What kind of silliness is this, dude? Why is it so fast? Really? Really me? That's nice, okay. So we walk down here and we come to this. Amazing, I think. We're almost there. If little is such an annoying blob. Hey, I have dirt. I have dirt on you. I have dirt on you. Tell me everything. I have dirt on you. I have dirt on you. Tell me everything. I have dirt on you. I have dirt on you. Tell me all everything. I have dirt on you. I have dirt on you. Blood, oh my god. I think I messed up this. I should have set mod for this. Plan road. Why is I swear. Now what? Now what? Right, I forgot. But let's flatten this area. No, let's not flatten it, but let's make it lower. So that it's nice. I think I need to bring it out a bit. This maybe? But it's kinda making a hard edge. So let's decide that. Decide about this. I think this is nice. Wait a minute. Okay. This is good. Gooder. Look at that. Amazing. Nice. Oh my god. This is one of my longest stream ever. Which is good, I think. I need to farm the hour anyway. I mean... Okay, that's fine. Interesting. What the fuck? You're seeing this? Every second chance, but they don't separate. Anyway, I think I'm expanding my farmland a bit. This is a bit annoying. I need more dirt. I'm missing one. Ridiculous. I'm missing one dirt. Like, what do you fucking mean? Pretty good. And they're still not growing. The shit. I should have upped my ticket while I'm making this folder. Next time, maybe. Wait a minute. That's a good idea to make this. Make butter. Probably. Probably this like this. Like this too. Nice. That's a great idea. And then this too. And then make it like this. And then this like that. Nice. We're having nice connection over here. Now I just need to run around. This is stupid. Run around. And maybe fix this too. Honestly, yeah. I'm just chilling. No more fighting monster. Which is not, I mean, it is enjoyable, but this is better, you see. I see now. I see why people play Minecraft. I see why I play Minecraft. Stupid. What is this, battering station? Oh, I don't need that. Farming is nice, yo. Let's check it. It's nice. Nice. Now I'm making the path. And I don't want to shuffle it manually, so I'm doing this. This is nice. This is actually nice. This is what I do all the time, but now in Minecraft. As in, running around, I mean, running in a circle. I do that often. I mean, it's just nice though. Oh my god, the path is made. Wait a minute, I think I have my 2 first stream today, so I think this is enough, probably. Now I just need to connect it up. Connect this shit up. I mean, it didn't work on this, so I think I need to do that manually, which is kinda annoying, but whatever. But that's it for today. Bye bye.